ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तं मानुपेत्य अपेत्य कृत्यं द्वापायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवो विनेदुस् तं सर्वभूतं हृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। भक्त्या विहीनपराधलक्षाय क्षिप्तश्च कामादि तरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं। तवेवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नयनं चरणनिके। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. So, we're going to continue hearing Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya chapter 12, about the deliverance of Jagai and Madhai by the merciful intervention of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Haridas Thakur. And we just heard about, before that we offer our obeisance unto the Lord's feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Vishnu Om Vishnu Pad Asto Tarsat Sri Srimad Advaita Acharya Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, and unto Sri Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Raj, and to our exalted Rupa Nuga Guru Varga and all the assembled Vaishnavis. So, Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas had come back to report to Mahaprabhu and reported about their contact with these two horribly sinful persons, Jagai and Madhai. And they're such frightful persons. And they were saying that a pious person would naturally chant the names of Krishna, but these two do not know anything other than sinful activities. Right? They're and they're the example. They were specifically chosen to be the example of the most unqualified persons for spiritual life, right? Because they were so sinful. We've heard about the different kinds of sins that can be performed, and we're told that they had done everything. It's frightening to hear, actually, how sinful they actually were. But then, after having said that, Nityananda Prabhu says to Mahaprabhu, if you deliver these two by awarding them devotional service, then I will know that you are Patit Pavan, the deliverer of the fallen. So there you are. This is the idea of Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Kali Yuga. This is why this Kali Yuga is so extraordinary, because Kali Yuga is full of faults. The degradation of humanity in Kali Yuga is so horrific. Use that word again. Being brought up in the Kali Yuga, you become sort of insensitive to it. This is quite normal. This is what goes on. But compared to the standards of other eras, it's just absolutely horrible. Right? So, and he said that if you deliver them, it will be more glorious than delivering me. Of course, there you go, the humility of Nityananda Prabhu. But then Vishwambar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vishwambar, right, the protector, the maintainer of all, responds to Nityananda by saying that they were delivered the moment they got your darshan. You are so concerned for their benefit that Krishna will soon arrange for their well-being. So, your darshan, in other words, he is the embodiment of Guru Tattva, the empowered representative. He carries the full potency of the Lord within his heart. And Mahaprabhu says, it's by your wish. I sent you out. You found them. You did this. And now you will see that very soon they will be delivered. Krishna will arrange this because you desire it. And then all the devotees went, Jai, Jai, Hari, Hari, right? They're all convinced that the two were already delivered. Now this is where Haridas is going to speak about Nityananda Prabhu. And this is very interesting because between Haridas and Nityananda, there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of joking, right? Even though Nityananda, Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has this kind of relationship. You don't hear devotees joking with Mahaprabhu in the same way. Everybody, they treat him as Mahaprabhu, like Guru, right? And Nityananda Prabhu is also Guru, but he has a different kind of relationship with everyone where he can do this. The only person that it seems that is joking with Mahaprabhu is Nityananda. We've heard so much back and forth between them earlier, their dialogue. So this is quite lovely, actually. So Haridas begins by saying, Chanchalada Sange Prabhu Amare Pataya Amitaki Kota Seva Kondike Yaya. The Lord sends me with this restless person. Is Chanchalada Sange. I have the association of this person's very chanchala. He leaves me behind. And who knows where he goes? We're supposed to be together. He runs off here. He runs off there. He's so restless. Now, during the rainy season, there are many crocodiles in the Ganga. And he goes swimming in the waters to catch them. In great anxiety, I call him loudly from the riverbank. But he continually floats around in the waters of the Ganga. He's completely unconcerned. But for others who have this, even in Mahaprabhu's Leela, there's this Naravat conception, human-like pastimes, right? And so they naturally have some fear. What is he doing? Or Nityananda, doesn't he see these giant crocodiles out there? Then he goes on to say, if he sees some boys, he comes out of the water and chases them to beat them. He scares the kids, right? Chasing them around. When the parents come with sticks in their hands, I fall at their feet and send them back. Oh, please forgive him. This is the Avadut. I have to intervene. He's doing so many crazy things. He steals butter and yogurt from the cowherd men and flees. And they catch me and want to beat me. So just like Krishna and Baladev would do these pastimes, naughty, naughty pastimes, Nityananda is often in the mood of a young boy. And he's also stealing. Does he need anything? No, anybody would give him whatever he wants. But he likes to steal. He likes the thrill. And he likes to excite the passions of those whom he steals from. Right? And in this way, their attraction and love for him will increase. But then Haridas becomes the object of wrath, and they want to beat him. How unfair is this? Why is he doing this? Whatever he does is unreasonable. When he sees an unmarried girl, he tells her, marry me. Mahaprabhu also did that during his scholarly pastimes. He would tell all the girls who were worshiping Lord Shiva for a good husband, oh, don't worship Lord Shiva, just worship me. You should marry me. And of course, they're all shy and angry at him. And then he curses them. Well, then I curse you that your husband he'll be old, he'll already have many wives, you'll be the last of them, and so many threats to them. Whatever he does is unreasonable. When he sees an unmarried girl, he tells her, marry me. He rides on the back of an ox and declares that he is Mahesh. He takes milk from others' cows and drinks it. Mahaprabhu also would do things like that, right? Sitting on the altars of Brahmins, taking their offering ingredients. When they're in the river meditating, he would come up and spit water on them, right? Which is actually the fulfillment of all their meditation, but they couldn't understand, right? This is Maha Abhishek he's giving them, but it just create turmoil in their minds. Very delightful. So can you imagine Nityananda? He's on an ox and he's riding it. I am Mahesh, and everyone looking at him like he's mad. And then he'll just go up to some other person's cow and begins to milk it and drink it, right? And when I try to teach him something, he abuses me and says, what can your Advaita do to me? Because Haridas and Advaita are very close. And they're older, and they should be regarded as respectful elders. He should listen to them. But he flaunts their authority. And Sri Chaitanya, whom you consider the Lord, what can he do to me? He's even disrespecting Mahaprabhu, right? He's older than him as well, right? Nobody can control me, he's saying. And then Haridas says, I have not said anything about this to the Lord, but today my life has been saved by providence. It's just got to a point, all these crazy things. Now I almost lost my life because of this madman. So he says, Maha Mato Jaladui Patte Pariache Krishna Upadesha Giya Kohe Tarakache. There were two great drunkards lying in the street, and he went before them to preach Krishna's instructions. In great anger, Maha Krode Daya Aile Maribara, Jivana Rakshara Hetu Prasada Tomara. In great anger, they rushed to kill us. It is by your mercy that our lives have been saved. Speaking to Advaita, right? So then Advaita smiled and said, this is not at all astonishing, for drunkards should associate with other drunkards. It is befitting that the three drunkards were together. But being a celibate, why were you there? So now Advaita's insulting Nityananda. Oh, he's just a drunkard like them. So it's natural he would be attracted to them and preach to them. But why were you there? You're so self-controlled, you're so celibate, all these things. So in the purport, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada says, after informing Advaita Prabhu about Nityananda's various restless activities, Haridas brought up the topics of Jaghai and Madhai and said that Nityananda became an object of the two drunkards' anger when he tried to preach Krishna's instructions to them. Today we were able to save our lives from the hands of these two rogues simply by your mercy. In reply to this, Advaita Prabhu said, Oh, Haridas, Sri Nityananda Prabhu is intoxicated from drinking the liquor of love for Krishna, whereas Jaghai and Madhai are intoxicated from drinking ordinary wine. Therefore, it is befitting that the three associate together. Since you are attached to the Supreme Lord, you should not go near them. So this is very clever of Advaita. He would also get into arguments with Nityananda and call him many names. Here, he's calling him a drunkard. But so that the ordinary reader would not misunderstand Advaita's internal meaning, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati makes it clear that he is intoxicated, but what is the source of his intoxication? Love of God. Just like Lord Baladev dancing with his gopis on the bank of the Jamuna, drinking the transcendental Varuni in the forest of Vrindavan, and appearing absolutely intoxicated. So when he calls to the Jamuna to come closer so they may bathe, she thinks, oh, he's intoxicated, I won't come. And then he displays his Bhagavata by threatening her and putting his plow into the ground and saying, I'll divide you into hundreds of rivers if you don't obey me. So, yes, he's intoxicated. So, yes, it's appropriate. They're intoxicated, he's intoxicated, but don't think it's the same, right? But you are of a different nature. You're sober, you're grave. You should not be associating with such persons. But then he goes on to say, Nityananda Koriba Sakale Matojala, Uhana Chaditra Muni Jani Bale Bala. Nityananda will make everyone intoxicated. I know his character very well. Purport. I know the characteristics of Nityananda very well. Within 2 or 3 days, he will bring these two rogues, who are fond of drinking wine, into the assembly of Vaishnavas. This is completely astonishing to hear. Ehideka tumidina dui tina vyaje, sehi dui madhyapa aniba gostimaje. Just wait and see. Within 2 or 3 days, he will bring those drunkards into our assembly. How could that be? The assembly of Mahaprabhu is so exalted. Even ordinary brahmanas, who by tradition and by analysis of their education, behavior, ordinary character, they're not fit to associate with Mahaprabhu, only the topmost devotees. But these two, who are rejected by all, they're going to be brought into the assembly of Mahaprabhu with only a couple of days. How is this possible? While speaking in this way, Advaita became overwhelmed with anger. Without any clothing on, he spoke with great emphasis. Without any clothing on. This is what happens to Lord Shiva when he becomes greatly intoxicated by love. Somehow he loses his clothing. Advaita is a special incarnation of Sadashiv, right? And so he spoke with great emphasis. Everyone will hear about Lord Chaitanya's devotional service to Krishna, and they will see his potency, how he dances and chants. You will see tomorrow how Nimai and Nitai will bring the two drunkards and dance with them. They will make the two equal to us, and we will have to run away to save our caste. On seeing Advaita's angry mood, Haridas smiled. He was convinced that the drunkards would be delivered. So it appears that he's angry because, now they're going to do something crazy again, bring these two contaminated persons into our assembly. We will lose our status and caste by associating with them. But his anger is a transcendental expression, right? And it's glorious, right? And so, seeing Advaita's angry mood, Haridas smiled. This kind of anger. He was convinced that the drunkards would be delivered. Who has the power to understand Advaita's words? Only Haridas Prabhu can understand him. We understand also from earlier parts of this Chaitanya Bhagavat how close Haridas and Advaita Acharya were. Haridas considered himself like a disciple of Advaita. And Advaita considered Haridas the best of personalities in Navadvip. When he did his Shraddha ceremony for his father and family, he invited all the important brahmanas of Navadvip to attend, and Shantipur. And it's traditional when you have this kind of ceremony that among the assembled persons, you choose one who's the most exalted, and they should receive the first remnants and worship, right? And Haridas was also invited, but he did not enter into the home or the hall because he was of Muslim birth, and he felt himself completely unqualified, and it would have caused disturbance in the assembly. But when it came time to choose that person, Advaita called to Haridas, who was outside, and said, "Come in and accept the first worship and remnants." And Haridas is very reluctant, but on the order of Advaita Acharya, he had to do it. And all the Brahmins are completely upset. And they stormed out of the house of Advaita, saying, "What is he doing? He's violating all the rules and etiquette of Dharma by inviting this untouchable into the house and offering him first worship. We will not stay in such a place. And they left. But Advaita was most senior among them as well, and was the leader of all the Brahmins as well as Vaishnavas in the greater Navadvip. And so they began to consider, wait, why did he do this? He's the most learned. He would not, and he's the most perfect in character and behavior. He must know something. He must have some purpose here. And then they went back and they apologized. And then Advaita offered Haridas this worship. They were very, very close, right? So, who has the power to understand Advaita's words? Only Haridas Prabhu can understand him. Because Advaita also, part of his pastime, was to speak in such a way that people did have difficulty. He preached in such a way that sometimes people thought that he was teaching Mayavad. But his teachings were very subtle. And it was done in such a way that those who are atheists and impersonalists would go in that direction. Because this is also the mission of Shiva, who had been instructed by the Lord to incarnate specifically for the purpose of preaching a Mayavad philosophy, to draw the atheist away from the association of devotees and the practice of bhakti. Because the study of bhakti will show you that if you simply chant the holy name, right, an abbas, a semblance of the holy name without offense, you can easily get liberation. And so the impersonalists would be very attracted because it's so much easier to chant the holy name than to perform all the practices that are required of the jnanis and the yogis. And so to avoid them contaminating the practice of bhakti, he wanted Shankaracharya to preach whose incarnation of Shiva, who is Advaita. So Advaita, he was understood in different ways by different people. Right? So, and throughout the Chaitanya Bhagavat, there are so many references to Advaita in such a way to clear that confusion up. Don't think of him in this inappropriate way. Don't think of him as different from the Lord or different from the Lord's associates. In the next statement, he injects this: Ebe papi sabha advaitera pakshahaya gadadhara ninda kare maraye padya. Many sinful people take the side of Advaita and criticize Gadadhar. They will be burnt to death. Purport. Anyone who had criticized Gadadhar Pandit, certainly burning to death is too easy. Who is Gadadhar Pandit? Srimati Radhika herself has taken the identity of Gadadhar in Mahaprabhu's Leela. Who is more dear to Mahaprabhu than Gadadhar Pandit? Purport, hardly anyone can understand the loving sentiments of Advaita Prabhu. Being unable to understand the actual meaning of Vaishnavism, a few sons of Advaita and non-devotee, so-called disciples of Sri Advaita Prabhu, introduce Advaita Prabhu as an impersonalist and support him while disregarding Sri Gaurasundar's most dear Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. Since Sri Achyutananda Prabhu, the son of Advaita, accepted subordination of Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, a few Mayavadi descendants of Advaita dared to disregard Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami Prabhu. As a result, they met with inauspiciousness. So Achyutananda, who was the best of the sons of Advaita, had great faith and appreciation for Gadadhar Pandit. In fact, when Achyutananda was a very young boy on his father's lap, Advaita was speaking to him in such a way and explaining who was Ishvara Puri, and he described him as the guru of Mahaprabhu. And little Achyutananda said, how can you say that? How can Mahaprabhu accept or have a guru. He is the guru of all. He is the Lord of all. There is no guru. And Advaita is very appreciative of his understanding of the underlying philosophical consideration. For Leela, of course, he accepts a guru. But in fact, he is Mahaprabhu. He is the guru of all. Right? And so Chaitanya, he had full understanding of all of this. And the relationship of the Panchatattva. And who is Advaita. So these others who could not understand, they met with inauspiciousness. So he goes on with this purport. When unauthorized disciples and sons of Sri Advaita Prabhu saw that after the disappearance of Sri Advaita Prabhu, his most intimate disciples began to worship Hari under the subordination of Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, they began to burn within. Considering their family prestige from the mundane viewpoint, and considering Advaita Prabhu as Vishnu and themselves as Vishnu's sons, they attacked those who worshipped under the guidance of Sri Gadadhar Prabhu. So that's the history. Because Advaita, he is considered an incarnation of Sadashiv, also of Mahavishnu. And so thinking themselves, we're disciples of Mahavishnu, who is Gadadhar Pandit? How could they accept the superiority of Gadadhar Pandit compared to Advaita himself? They could not understand the complete tattva. Even though Advaita Prabhu always said, I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya, and a servant of Lord Chaitanya. This was his own identity. And so then, Haridas Thakur goes on to say, any sinful person who takes the side of one Vaishnava and blasphemes another Vaishnava is certainly ruined. This is another very important verse. Ye papishta eka Vaishnavera paksha hoya, anya Vaishnavere ninde sehi yaya kaya. Any sinful person who takes the side of one Vaishnava and blasphemes another Vaishnava is certainly ruined. Again, more instruction about the danger of Vaishnava Ninda. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada says, sinful-minded persons who are averse to Hari think that there is a difference of opinion among pure Vaishnavas, and they selfishly take the side of one and blaspheme the other's process of worship. But both Vaishnavas are engaged in the service of the Lord. By imagining differences between them and taking the side of one Vaishnava, one considers him superior. Yet, since the other Vaishnava prays for that Vaishnava's purification and desires his auspiciousness, the observer considers him unfavorable and censures him, thinking that there is a possibility of difference between Vaishnavas. By preaching such a philosophy, one invites one's own ruination. Because from the perspective of the Kanishta, they can only see bhakti and Vaishnava practice in the most superficial way. And so acharyas and teachers, they will teach according to time, place, and circumstance, according to their audience, according to the qualification, the country they're in, the culture they're preaching to, the level of the students, and from an internal perspective, even from their own mood, right? Because even in that, there may be differences, but differences on the platform of pure love are not things to be condemned, they're things to be relished. Right? So, in the spiritual world, in the realm of perfection, there are many different groups of devotees with many different moods of service. Even amongst the gopis, there are different groups. They're described in relationship with Sri Radhika. Swapaksha. These are the gopis who are directly in the camp of Srimati Radhika herself. Vipaksh. These are gopis who are in the camp of Chandravali. Right? And in the Leela, in the pastimes, they're competitors. And they even criticize each other, saying that, oh, this group doesn't really understand Krishna and how to serve him. Oh, why is Radhika showing man? Why is she so mean to Krishna? Krishna's so soft, he's so sweet, he's so perfect. She doesn't know anything about love. And Radhika saying, oh, Chandravali and her group, they know nothing about man and how much Krishna yearns for this type of dealing. And then in between, there are those who are suhrit, who are friendly towards Radhika and inclined towards her in their own group, inclined towards her, and they're neutral to Chandravali. And then those who are Tatashta, who are inclined towards Chandravali and a little neutral to Radhika. So there are many different groups, but remember, all of them, who are they? They're all expansions of Radhika herself. She creates Chandravali is her own expansion. In Leela, she's her cousin sister. And in serving Krishna, they may be competing. But in separation, they're all joined together in deep, deep love. And all ultimately know that Radhika is the best of Krishna's beloveds. But even there will be some competition, right? And sometimes the cowherd girls will criticize the cowherd boys and tie them up and chastise them and do so many things, even though they're Krishna's dear friends. And they'll fight against Krishna and defeat Krishna's friends and condemn them. Oh, this stupid, greedy Brahmin, things like that. And they'll make Krishna beg forgiveness. But these are all transformations of love. So when we talk about great devotees, they will come, and internally, they may have slight differences of opinion, how the service should be done, but ultimately they're all pure devotees. They're all doing it selflessly and exclusively and appropriately for the pleasure of the Lord, because service to Mahaprabhu, to Nityananda, there are infinite varieties of service that can be done in different moods, right? So, in the beginning, though, the Kanishta, they can only see in the most basic way the teachings how to perform bhakti. And their guru may tell them to serve in one way, and they may see another guru is teaching his disciples to serve in another way. And they can't understand it. And so they criticize that other person. Also, they may be very sectarian because they're still in the materially conditioned state where the living entity is inclined towards the mood of friends and enemies, my group versus your group. Not the pure, transcendental, very tasty my group versus your group, right? But the mundane, selfishly oriented my group versus your group, right? Which is going on since the beginning of time, which manifests in city-states, nation-states, sports teams, politics, extended family, immediate family. In this world, all the groups are competing and criticizing each other. But to do that to a Vaishnava is a great error. Great, great error. And the topmost Vaishnavas are always praying for each other and glorifying each other, right? So, this was brought up right in the middle of this, so that, because whenever Advaita Acharya is brought into the conversation, his activities are difficult to understand for mundane people. And so Vrindavan Das brings it back for our understanding. And within that includes any sinful person who takes the side of one Vaishnava and blasphemes another Vaishnava is certainly ruined. And as disciples of our Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, we had that challenge because amongst his godbrothers, there was a great deal of, I don't know if the word tension is correct, but they would sometimes criticize him, and he would criticize them, right? Because, they had one idea of how to serve Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. He had a very different idea, right? But the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, my God brothers and God sisters, we didn't understand Srila Prabhupada's mood of criticism, and so we jumped on the bandwagon of thinking them inferior. And we would also criticize them, but from a mundane perspective. And it was very surprising at the end, at different times during Srila Prabhupada's time here, one prominent godbrother disappeared who Srila Prabhupada had a lot of disagreement with and who was critical of Srila Prabhupada. And the disciples had very specific feelings about him. And they said, "What happened to him, Srila Prabhupada?" They thought surely he went to hell. And they said, "What do you mean, what happened to him?" "He went back to Godhead with my Guru Maharaj." "What? Him?" "Yeah, he was a pure devotee. All my God brothers are pure devotees." Right? And when Srila Prabhupada was about to disappear from our vision, he requested his God brothers to forgive any offenses that he had committed to them. He felt that I've criticized them, it was inappropriate. Now all that's over. I was doing that to push this preaching in the way that I was inspired, but now the war is over. Now we should all just get along, right? And he wanted money and support given to his godbrothers and their institutions, right? So should never. And when we joined Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj and Gaudiya Math, we had occasion sometimes to associate with, very respectable devotees, very high-class devotees that maintained some of the critical conceptions of Srila Prabhupada, like taking the name Prabhupada. And they spoke them strongly. And it was difficult to refrain from criticizing them, but we did. I understand, okay, that is their mood, but let us just back off, offer obeisance from a distance. Where that mood is existent, we just stay away. But we recognize their Vaishnavata, we honor their Vaishnavata. This is a very specific thing based on their attachment to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. In ISKCON, nobody wants the name Prabhupada to be aligned with any of the God brothers, same as those in the Gaudiya Math. So it's understandable. Even though Srila Narayan Maharaj and others have said that the name of Prabhupada can be applied to any pure devotee, because it has many meanings. Srila Prabhupada said, when they call me Prabhupada, I think that it means that I am at the feet of my Prabhu, right? So it's a mood of my humble position in relation to my spiritual master. The disciple will think, oh, it means my guru at whose feet all other great personalities sit, right? So many different angles we can see. But Vaishnavas, and this is stated in many places more than once, they all have transcendental vision. And it's only from our perspective that they appear to disagree, right? Because we have a very limited vision. So, next verse. Oh, wait. We'll read a couple more verses, then we'll stop. So, as the two drunkards wandered from place to place, they came to the bathing ghat where the Lord would take his bath in the Ganga. So now, okay, by the arrangement of providence, by divine arrangement, they made that place their base, from which they would go out and raid various places. So, by divine arrangement, Daiva Joge Sehistani Kori Lekatan Vedaiya Bule Sarvatani Dehihan. So, by divine arrangement, by Yogamaya, they've come to this place. Because now they're going to be close to the Lord and his devotees. Sakalolo kerachita haila shashanka kiba badha kiba dhani kiba maharanka. whether influential, rich, or poor. All people's hearts became filled with fear. Purport: all the residents of Navadvip, including the prestigious, the aristocratic, and the poor, became frightened by the behavior of the two rogues. The word ranka refers to the misers and the poor. No one went to take bath in the Ganga at night, and if they did, they went in groups of 10 or 20 because they were fearful of being attacked. So, we're going to start tomorrow. Now they're there. They're close to Srivas Pandit's house. And they're going to be hearing the kirtan at night. This is an important thing. They're going to collect together 7 verses altogether and about them hearing the kirtan. I'll read the verses, and then tomorrow we'll read them again. They stayed near the Lord's house and listened to the Lord's kirtan as they remained awake throughout the night. Being intoxicated with wine, they joyfully danced as they listened to the sound of the kartals and mridanga in the kirtan. As they could hear everything from that distance, they would listen, dance, and then drink more wine. Whenever there was kirtan, the two would stay there. When they heard the kirtan, they would get up and dance. They were so overwhelmed by drinking wine, they did not remember where they had been or where they were. When they saw the Lord, they said, "Oh, Nimai Pandit, you should sing the entire song of Mangala Chandi. You have expert singers who we wish to see. We will bring and give you whatever you need." Okay, this is going to be a great verse to read again, to hear the commentary, and to consider the powerful transformative effect and how important this Nam Abbas is for these persons. Okay, so we'll stop here. Our obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.